So here is the 1964 Nova project that we picked up. We picked this up as a, not to say a last effort, but really a opportunity to do something with my dad where we can bond and get to know each other a little bit better. He is going to be 70 soon, and we really don't know how much time we'll have together, and 70 is not exactly young. So he's always wanted to do a project with me, and we've talked about this for 15 years probably, if not closer to 20, picking up from a 64 Falcon that we had that never went anywhere because I was young and kind of chasing around a bunch of different things, and he was he lived in a different state, or I'm sorry, a different city, and so it didn't get finished. It got sold off, traded, and stuff put on the back burner for a long time. Now, I've spent the last week essentially tearing this thing apart, getting rid of all of the junk that came with it. That way we could really focus on what this car needs to be, a driver. And when I say a driver, actually running and driving, not a full teardown, not doing a full chassis work or anything like that, but just to get it to run and drive and be able to enjoy it for a little bit before it actually gets a full teardown like it's going to need, honestly, to be a nice car. So this came without an engine and transmission. And so we ended up picking up something fun and something actually important for muscle car history to go ahead and build and put in this thing. So the engine we have for this is a 302. That would be a equivalent of a 283 crank from a Gen 1 small block Chevy in a 327 or a 350 block. The significance actually comes from the fact that this one is stamped DZ at the end of the production number, as you can see here in the video, and that signifies that it was actually factory 302 with a fully forged bottom end that was for the homologation of the 1969 Z28 Camaro for the SCCA. For me, this is actually a special engine because the 1969 Camaro Z28 was my dream car as a kid. My sister actually had a 69 Camaro for her first car. I ended up with a 64 Ford Falcon, which is actually the competitor car from Ford for the Nova. And I had the Futura model, which was the top of the line. It was in no way condition, in condition when I had it to actually be considered a top of the line one when I was 16 to 18. But for the Super Sport, that was its competitor. The Super Sport Nova came with a 283, whereas the Futura Falcon had the 260 V8 small block. But this is kind of an ability to return back to really a car that body-wise is in the condition of the Falcon that me and my dad were going to do together, as well as go into cars that we're actually more familiar with. We're both way more familiar with Chevys than we are with Fords, even as much as I've worked on a couple different Fords over the years when I was young. This is where I put my time and energy into learning, and so having the engine from the car that was my dream car into a car that kind of represents that time period where we had a project that we didn't complete, we get to kind of pick back up and blend both of those things together. We do have a set of poured and polished Fuel-y heads, which were the Corvette style heads. They have bigger ports, they have matched runners, they are bigger valves, and so on. But we have a lot of engine pieces that need to be sorted through by the engine builder or the guy that's going to advise the engine building as we go along. The goal is to go back to a factory 11-to-1 compression. If it goes to 11.5-to-1, no big deal. It just needs to be able to run on pump gas. And then try to go with a more top-end range camshaft and valve train setup, because these engines were consistently able to spin up to 7,200 RPM from the factory. One of the trick things about this was, much like the Japanese automakers in the 90s, for some of my import friends, they rated this at 290 horsepower, but that was a horsepower rating at 5,500 RPM, whereas it actually produced 360 to 370 horsepower on average, making it almost the same horsepower as the L79 327, the LT1 350, that were also very special small blocks in the late 60s and early 70s. So this is a fun special motor that we're gonna, you know, kind of have some fun with it and not just go back to factory specs, and make it something that's going to be fun to run around on the street with, fun to be able to wind it up. We want to be able to consistently be in the 75 to 7,800 range for shift points, and for the engine itself to be built to comfortably, you know, be able to spin up to 82 to 8,500 RPM. So that's going to take some good machine work. That's going to take some careful attention to the specifications, the tolerances, and the components we use. But we're really excited to make this that, especially for a Gen 1 small block Chevy. It'll be quite different. It'll be fun. So that's what we're looking at here. Some of the last things I need to do to wrap up the basic organization of this is just kind of finish pulling the interior pieces out, the little trims, get them labeled, dash pad, all kinds of stuff like that, and then we're pretty much starting from square one. The floors are going to need to be done for sure. That's going to be a priority, and getting my dad involved is going to be fun. This is some stuff that he's never done before. I mean, some of it I've never done before, so we'll be figuring it out together, but some of the stuff I know how to do. So it's a little bit of a 50-50, even if I haven't done it before. And that's where some of the bonding hopes have come in. Like, me and my dad aren't necessarily super close. I love the guy. He's super nice. Just saw him a couple days ago, and we got some. I got some tools from him and everything, because I don't have many standard American tools. So I picked up a bunch of sockets from him. Like even this, he got me this cool little, it's kind of low power, but little battery powered driver. And it's coming in handy. My dad's very thoughtful. But like we're not close, because he didn't really kind of know how to be like a father figure, in the sense of like helping me learn about life and philosophy and stuff like that. My dad was fun. Like we did cars. We'd go street racing. That was like our family. Saturday night was going to meet up at the street races in Camarillo, and you know, he raced the Camaro that my sister eventually got a few times, and you know, I think I was maybe like 12, and we were going out and doing that. Like, it was definitely something that became tradition. Later on, when I had my Falcon and my Silverado that, you know, I had done and stuff like that, that was family time for Saturday night. But like I said, he wasn't necessarily he wasn't the dad that helped me figure out life. My mom did a good job, and she really had like 3 rules for the most part. It was finish high school, get a job, and keep it in your pants. Now I'm saying it a little simplistically here, so if my mom sees this, please know I love you and I think what you did was a great job. And I wish I would have abided by one of those rules a little bit better. Because I actually graduated high school early, like I started working when I was like 11 years old. I was mowing neighbors' yards, all kinds of stuff like that to make money so I could go skateboard. So because I haven't had really like those key bonding experiences where he helped me understand like, hey, this is what it is to be a man kind of thing and all that, like unfortunately, like I had to find those from other experiences. And he went through a health scare many years ago, and basically he ended up in the hospital for 31 days, and 21 of those days he was in a coma because he had a blood clot in each lung and his oxygen was too low. We thought there was a good chance he was gonna die. Literally, we had a doctor one time tell us, like, for one of the procedures, like, hey, it's 50-50. This will either help him get out and get better, or he'll die. Like, 50-50. And he's still here. It's like, you know, awesome, great. Like, we had to make the call on the medical procedure, but he had a long period of time where he didn't have appropriate amount of oxygen to his brain, so he did suffer some brain damage, and he himself is aware of that. It admits to it, and so it's like, okay, like, cool, we understand that, we help him with a lot of things, and like as he's getting older, like I want him to remember these last years, because like dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all on his side of the family. His mom had Alzheimer's, his dad had Parkinson's and stuff, and so I'm hoping to use this so we can get closer and we can get to know each other, and that the last few years, hopefully more than a few, we can make some memories doing this stuff together, you know. So so getting a lot of these trim pieces out, whatever, like, it's tedious work, but it has to get done. And as annoying as it can be, I'm not gonna worry about that. That's gonna get pulled out when I start cutting out the floorboard. It needs to be done, and the better that some of these dumb little things are done, the easier other pieces of the project can be. And I'm looking forward to that. Hey there, little lady.
Are you recording things?
Yeah. What can I do for you?
What are you doing?
Just trying to get all the rest of the interior pieces pulled apart and labeled and whatnot.
Yeah.
Definitely not keeping this. What are you up to?
Laundry.
Yeah.
Putting away the Christmas stuff.
Would you do me a favor?
I'd love to do you a favor.
I could really go for some water right now.
Would you like regular water or bubbly?
Oh, bubbly. Oh, if we got bubbly, I will take bubbly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I have a smooch?
Sure thing.
Oh.
As I hit my head. But yeah, as you get some of these little tedious things done, labeled, organized, thrown away, so on, it's less that you have to worry about coming back to later on. Teardowns, you'll like TV shows and stuff like that. We're gonna build this car in 1 week and so on. Like, you've got a whole crew of people that are literally gonna throw away everything that comes off the car practically. And it's not realistic. You're not doing a project at home like this. More than likely you're not. You're gonna want to keep some things, because if you're like us, we do not have an unlimited budget. We have we're doing this budget to not go in debt for any component, so just paying everything cash as we go along, and do so with, for one, not driving my wife crazy in the process, which that's really hard to do, but two, also like try to see how tightly we can do this in regards to budget and it be attainable and it be cool. So yeah, well, we'll see how that goes. Don't have a lift, don't have none of that stuff, so essentially it's like most people are going to do these kinds of projects at home. So but as I wrap up this stuff, welcome to the introduction of this project, and I hope it's something that other people enjoy and helps motivate you guys to get to wrenching on something yourselves that maybe you've had in your driveway for a long time. Who knows? Some of this is just getting ripped out, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. This dash pad is definitely not going to be reused, so it is what it is, right? Got one more open, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get. I don't think I can get to that one without either pulling the windshield or getting a specialized tool to get in there. Over here, there's supposed to be a rear antenna. That's what all this like is supposed to be. There's supposed to be actually an antenna here. And I just pulled the antenna wire from underneath, but if you look underneath the panel, like what they ended up doing is taking actually might have been a little bit further forward, but they have this little piece of metal underneath here. Can't see on the camera, but they basically, like, I don't know if they tack welded that piece of metal underneath the section where the rear antenna was, and then just filled it with body filler, or if they actually fully welded it in. And so, like, I got to start inspecting stuff like that. When you come over here to the door, when you look on the inside, you see all of this stuff that looks like it's like oozing through. That might be body filler from where the center trim piece went all the way down the car. And so sanding that down, if I find a bunch of holes there, then all of that's going to need to be taken down and then depending on the condition of the metal there, actually weld those holes shut, rather than let this little collection of worms be here. But then also too, like up here, there's still another little metal piece. So you see this like blue metal piece right up underneath here that's just like a little slab of metal, like right here. So that's the same thing as the antenna, I think, where they just put a piece there, they tack welded it on as a backing, and then just put body filler over it to shave the holes for the door handles.
Like when you spackle a hole in the wall, you put a piece on the inside to hold it.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
So those are things I'm gonna have to start looking at soon. I mean, I gotta get door handles on this thing no matter what. So I was thinking about looking at these pieces first. In the next few days I get to work on this, and then kind of go from there. But it's gonna be a lot of little stuff like that I gotta solve. And as we can see, we're gonna need door panels. I'm sorry, not door panels. Gonna need a floor. We got a big hole in the floor. So the whole panel is gonna need to be, the whole floor panel is gonna be done. That's an automatic transmission tunnel, so we're gonna have to swap it to a manual transmission tunnel. There's another little like pinhole way back here as well. So obviously all this stuff's gonna get done before it drives, because that's gonna be the only way it's reasonably safe to put seats in. Because the last thing we need to do is be able to Fred Flintstone this thing as we go along. So yeah, getting things kind of pulled apart where they need to be. I mean, realistically, the car's gonna need a lot of work, and pulling the front brakes, because they're all factory parts on the brakes, and so I'm gonna be checking those out and see what we got, because disc brakes on a 64 is not a factory option, but they use factory pieces, so I gotta figure out what's what and then go from there. And yeah, piece by piece. We already have some ideas on more of the bigger design direction that we're going to do with the car. We're actually going to do a bit of a tribute idea, or a tribute for my grandfather. I'll explain more of that another time. But being that the goal of the car is going to be very Trans Am inspired too, having this thing handle is going to be really important. So that's the thing we're evaluating, and bit by bit we will get there. But for $3,500 we have a car with no engine and transmission that's going to need a lot of body work, but we have a car. And the engine cost for all the parts that came with it, $2,400. So I think we got a good deal on that, considering just the block alone. Like, I could still find online people selling them 6-8 years ago for $5,000. And being that the market got so out of hand these last few years on aftermarket values and whatnot, it's probably worth more than that. But it's a project.